This is a meditation for early summer. Find yourself in a comfortable seat or lying down. We'll start with our floss breathing. Gentle breaths in and out through the nose. Noticing as you draw a breath in, letting your energy reach up through the crown of your head to touch the sun and stars and sky. On the out breath, let's golden silvery starlight sunlight coming down through the crown of your head, through your body, out through your feet, touching the earth. On the in-breath, drawing up the verdant blue, green, shimmering energy of the earth through your feet, your legs, your lower belly, your chest, your throat, right out through the top of your head. Just touch the sun, the stars. Drawing down the silvery light of heaven, drawing up the blue-green light of earth. And as you floss your energy centers, your body, with these two shimmering lights, just notice where along the path of your breath feels a little constricted. Maybe it's a little drawn in like an hourglass, or just feels a little harder to pass through. Drawing the energy up through your feet, your legs, the perineum, lower belly, upper belly, chest, throat, third eye, forehead, out to the top of your head. Golden silvery starlight down through the top of your head, third eye, throat, chest, upper belly, lower belly, perineum, legs, feet. Just notice where along that pathway it seems to have a difficulty flowing through. And drawing our attention to that restricted area, what do you notice about the size, shape, density, color, texture of that obstruction? Just sitting with it for a moment. Gold and silvery light of heaven raining down, rinsing it like a shower. Blue-green shimmering light of earth coming up and swirling through the obstructed area, constricted area, on its way out to the top of your head. And as you bring your attention to that constriction, just notice what the emotional sensation of it is. And as you sit with it, you might ask what it is that you can do for it, because this is an energy center that's been doing a lot of hard work for you. It's protecting you from those emotions that were just a little too much and tucking them away to protect you. So what can we do to help that constricted area? It'll be something simple like taking a walk or taking a bath, or just sitting with it and breathing each morning with a cup of tea. These areas in us just need a little attention, and once we are consciously aware of them, we can work with them to help them function better and move along. So we'll begin now our journey into summer. It's a warm, early summer evening, and you go out for a walk. It's the micro season of summer in May when the grass is impossibly green, dotted with neon dandelions glowing in the lowering sun. You're on a path through a meadow that runs beside a lazily moving river with a swirling eddies and ducks drifting along the banks, a chorus of frogs, and a pair of swans feeding quietly in the shallows. Fish rise from below to feast on a new hatch, their rings widening across the water. Early summer wildflowers scatter the meadows with blues and violets, pinks and whites, columbine nodding along the river bank while buttercups catch the evening light like little drops of gold. The air smells of warmth, green growing things, and rich river mud. Birdsong comes from all directions as the newly returned brightly colored birds find their mates and call the news of summer back and forth through the trees. There's a feeling in the air that the world itself is opening, that something sacred is moving just beneath the surface of ordinary things. You remember the old stories that say that the veil between the world grows thin in the early days of summer, and that those with the eyes to see may sometimes clutch a glimpse of the hidden people moving quietly through field and forest. You think of the old tales of fairy folk taking animal form in this world, walking unseen among humans, carrying the energies of joy, beauty, love, and aliveness back to the land itself so that summer may fully arrive. And just as the thought crosses your mind, a hummingbird zips past at eye level, a flash of iridescent green and ruby red suspending impossibly in the air before you. You've heard in the old stories that hummingbirds are fairy folk in their animal form, but you've never seen one. And on this magical evening, you decide to follow it to see where it might lead. You take a step in the direction it went, and suddenly it's in front of you hovering again, looking directly in the eye. You hold your breath, afraid to move, afraid to startle him. You have a feeling he's checking you out as much as you are captivated by him. He zips away to sip the nectar from a patch of columbine and buttercup on the river bank, and you step in his direction. The dance between you and the hummingbird continues, him making sure you see him before zipping off again for you to follow. Before long, other animals and birds begin to join you. The ducks and swans on the river bob alongside. A pair of rabbits emerge from the grasses. A young deer steps delicately from the edge of the trees and falls into pace beside you. You come to a bend in the river where the current slows, and your animal fairy friends are guiding you close to the river's edge where the swan is waiting. As you get closer to the swans, they seem to grow in size, but you realize that all the animals in your party seem larger, and it's you who are shrinking. And you remember in the old stories about the swans that they are not merely birds, but beings who move between the worlds, creatures of the river and earth and sky who belong as much to the other world as they do to this one. The old people said that when swans appear at thresholds, transformation follows close behind. They are said to carry souls across the veil and guide travelers to places where the deeper truths can be seen. You remember too the stories of sovereignty, not power over others, but the deep remembering of one's true nature and rightful place within the great web of life. The swans in the old tales often appear when someone is being called into truer relationship with themselves, with the land, and with the soul they came here to become. And somewhere deep inside you understand that a swan is choosing to carry you into the other world, and it's no small thing. It means you have been recognized, that something within you is ready to be remembered. As you approach the river's edge, the large male swan reaches out his long neck and picks you up gently by the back of your shirt and settles you onto his back, warm and dry between his huge white wings. You glance back toward the riverbank, expecting to see the little gathering of animals that had followed beside you on the meadow path. But what you see there now takes your breath away. The rabbits are not merely rabbits. Their fur shimmers silver and gold in the fading light. Their eyes hold an ancient knowing. The young deer now walks tall and luminous, crowned in branches woven with blossoms and moss. The ducks upon the river gleam with emerald and sapphire feathers that ripple like living jewels. And the hummingbird, now hovering before you once more, no longer appears to be made entirely of feather and bone. Tiny strands of light trail behind him like threads of green fire. His eyes sparkle with mischief and intelligence far older than the human world. And one by one you realize that these beings were never simply animals at all. The old stories flood back to you, the stories that tell of the fairy folk and otherworld beings who take animal shape when moving unseen through this realm. And now their true forms are beginning to show themselves. Some appear cloaked in feathers, antlers, flowers, or fur. Others shimmer between animal and human shape, as though they fully belong to neither world alone, beautiful, wild, and ancient. With a sudden feeling both thrilling and humbling, you realize that you've not simply been leading you somewhere, they have been escorting you. The great swan pushes away from the riverbank and begins gliding silently down the slow-moving river. The water parts without effort beneath him, smooth as black glass, reflecting the soft gold of the evening sky. His great wings rise slightly around you like a cloak, sheltering you as a strange and beautiful procession of otherworld beings follows alongside the riverbank and through the shallows. The hummingbird darts ahead like a spark of emerald fire. The antlered deer being moves soundlessly among the tall grasses. Strange luminous birds pass overhead in widening circles. And as you travel further downstream, a silver mist begins to rise from the surface of the water. At first, it gathers only in rhythms along the river's edge, but it slowly thickens until the familiar meadow and banks begin to disappear from view. The air changes here. It's warmer somehow, charged. You feel it against your skin like the moment before the summer lightning splits the sky. The old stories return to you again, the stories of rivers that become pathways between worlds, of mists that gather at threshold where the ordinary sight begins to fall away, of travelers carried by swans to the hidden realms where the ancient powers still tend the great forces of life itself. The swan continues forward into the luminous fog, and then slowly shapes begin to appear ahead, lights flickering in the mist. A great gathering waits upon the farther shore. As the swan emerges from the silver veil, you see a widening circle clearing beneath enormous ancient trees. Fires are burning everywhere, gold fires, blue fires, pink fires, small dancing flames floating in bowls of water, great bonfires rising toward the stars. Around them gather beings of every kind imaginable, tall, radiant figures wrapped in moss and ivy, women crowned in flowers and antlers, dark-skinned elders with glowing eyes, river beings clothed in silver, animal spirits standing upright in cloaks of feather and fur, beautiful beings who seem woven from the firelight itself. And at the center of them all stands Brigid, the keeper of the flame, and you know her immediately, not because she appears grand or distant, but because warmth itself seems to move outward from her presence. Her hair glows in the firelight, her eyes are deep and ancient and impossibly kind, and around her burns a living flame that seems to breathe with the rhythm of the world itself. You understand that this is no ordinary gathering. These are the ancient ones who tend the fire of the world, the sacred fire that lives inside all growing things, the fire that calls seeds to sprout and trees to leaf, fire full of passion and pollination, fire of longing that draws beings toward one another in love and creation, the fire that ripens fruit and deepens souls, the fire that helps each being become fully itself. You'll feel suddenly that all summer is born from this place. Every blossom opening in the meadow, every bird song at dawn, every hummingbird flashing through the air, every moment of joy, intimacy, courage, beauty, and aliveness are all fed by this sacred tending that's happening here. The swan stops at the water's edge and lowers a wing for you to step down. And as your feet touch the earth, the gathering begins to turn toward the great central fire where Brigid now raises her hands. The flames begin to swirl and rise and change color as sparks stream upward into the living night like stars. The ritual has begun, and you feel the pulse of drums beneath your feet. Voices rise in song around the fire. Not human song alone, but the voices of rivers, birds, and wind, leaves, bees humming over flowers, the deep sound of life itself singing in countless form. The ancient ones move around the fire in slow spirals, pattern weaving warmth and vitality into the fabric of the coming season. And you begin to understand that this is the alchemy, a sacred tending of the force that allows life to flourish. As you watch the otherworld beings gathered around you step forward one by one to receive portions of the magic being created here. The deer being bows before the flame and rises glowing with golden warmth before disappearing back toward the human world. The hummingbird flies directly through the fire itself, emerging brighter than before, carrying sparks of joy and vitality toward the flowering meadows. Others receive blessings of fertility, beauty, courage, devotion, sensuality, creative power, deepened purpose, the wisdom to remain true to their essential nature. And you begin to understand that these beings carry the fire back into the world itself, into the forests and rivers, into flowers and animals, and into human hearts, so that summer may fully arrive and life may ripen toward abundance. And now Brigid turns toward you. She steps toward you carrying a small bowl formed of dark stone, and within it burns a living flame unlike any fire you've ever seen. It gives no smoke, no heat that burns, and yet as she approaches, you feel every guarded place in you warm and illuminated. She looks directly into your eyes, and you have the feeling that she sees not only the life you have lived, but the deeper shape of the soul beneath it, the part of you that existed before fear and disappointment, before the world told you who you should be. The singing and movement around the fire continue, but softer now and farther away, as though the world itself is making space for this moment. Bridget gestures for you to place your hands over your heart, and when you do, she lifts the small living flame from the bowl with her bare fingers. The flame glows gold and deep crimson, pulsing like tiny sun. And you realize that this is not merely the fire of warmth or desire or joy, it's the fire of becoming, the fire that helps the soul remain faithful to its true nature even while living in a difficult world. Fire that gives courage to love, create, remain open, to protect what matters, to hold boundaries around what would pull you away from yourself, to keep saying yes to life. Brigid places a tiny living flame gently into the center of your chest. The moment it touches you, a warmth spreads through your whole body, not overwhelming, just deep, ancient, and familiar. You feel something inside of you awaken, not something new, but something remembered. Images begin flickering through you like sparks, moments of joy, creative longing, love freely given, the work your soul came here to do, the hearts you're meant to touch, the joy you bring to the world. You understand now that the fire element is not simply about passion or emotion, it's the force that ripens life to its fullest expression. Bridget's eyes meet yours once more, and the firelight reflected within them like the stars. It's a moment of awe that this fire is awakened, she says softly. Moments when the heart opens so fully that for an instant you remember yourself as part of the great living oneness of all things. As she speaks, you suddenly understand the feeling. The moment the sun breaks through the trees in just the right way, or birdsong stops you in your tracks, the moment beauty pierces you so unexpectedly, or love rises so strongly in your chest that the boundaries between yourself and the world grow thin. And with these moments, something else, pure joy, not the fleeting happiness, but a profound joy that rises naturally when you remember yourself as part of the great living unity of life itself. A joy that comes when separation falls away, even for a moment, and you feel yourself once again woven into the vast sacred dance of existence. Joy is what naturally arises when the heart is open, when life is allowed to move freely through you, when you remember your connection to the divine spark living within all things. These are not small moments, Brigid says. These are moments when your deeper nature becomes visible to you again. Moments when you feel the presence of your higher self and you remember your connection to the sacred fire that moves through all life. Around the great fire, the gathered beings continue their dance. Some begin transforming back into their animal forms before leaving to carry the blessings outward into the world. Birds lift into warm night air, carrying threads of golden light on their wings. Deer disappear into the forest, glowing softly beneath the trees. The hummingbird pauses before you one last time, its tiny body radiating impossible joy before vanishing into the darkness toward the human world once more. Go looking for awe, Brigid tells you. Seek it intentionally as you move through your days. For each moment of true wonder, beauty, joy, love, or deep connection become a doorway back to this fire, back to the part of you that knows who you truly are. And deep within your chest, the living flame glows warmly in response. Slowly, the singing around the fire begins to soften, and the drums fade into the wind. The great flames burn lower now, though the warmth and joy moving through the gathering still pulse around you like a living heart. And Brigid places her hand gently over your chest where the living flame now burns within you. Remember, she says softly, the doorway back to this fire is awe. Go looking for it, for whenever the heart opens in wonder, beauty, joy, love, or deep connection, that flame will answer. She smiles then, and for a moment you see not only Brigid before you, but the fire moving through all things, through the stars and flowers, through bird song and human heart alike. The swan waits quietly at the river's edge, and you bow once more to Brigid and the gathered beings around the fire, and climb gently onto the swan's broad white back. As the swan pushes away from the shore, the great gathering begins to dissolve into the mist and firelight behind you. The ancient beings become softer and more transparent until they seem almost woven in the moonlight itself. The music fades into the distance, and the swan carries you once more into the silver mist rising over the river. But now the world feels different, or perhaps it's you who's different, and as you glide slowly along the water, moments of beauty begin to appear everywhere around you. Fireflies flicker to life over the meadow grasses like tiny floating stars. A warm breeze carries a scent of wild roses and clover. Swallows skim low over a river, catching the last light of dusk on their wings. And somewhere further off, frogs begin to sing in the evening. And each time wonder rises within you, the little flame in your chest responds. You feel brightened, not burning, just opening. You begin to understand what Brigid meant, that the other world is not separate from this world. It shimmers quietly beneath it, within it, around it, and the open heart allows you to be connected. The swan continues to carry you upriver until slowly the silver mist begins to thin completely. The familiar meadow starts to reappear. The riverbank returns, and the evening sky glows soft lavender and gold above the grasses. And one by one, the otherworld beings traveling beside you begin taking their animal form once more. The luminous deer becomes once again a quiet young doe at the forest edge, and the shining birds become ordinary river birds settling into the reeds. The rabbits disappear softly into the tall grass, and the hummingbird appears one last time before you, hovering in the fading light. For the moment, looking directly into your eye again, and with a flash of green and ruby fire, he vanishes into the deepening summer evening. The great swan glides gently to the river bank and lowers a wing for you to step down. And the moment your feet touch the familiar earth once more, you feel the world shift around you, the grasses seeming to settle downward, the riverbank widening, the reeds and wildflowers returning to their ordinary size as your body gently returns to its familiar human form. You turn toward the swan and place your hand gently over your heart in gratitude for the grace it offered in carrying you safely between the worlds. The swan bows its long white neck toward you in silent acknowledgement. And beside you now, the great swan appears once again as an ordinary swan, drifting quietly upon the river. The meadow is exactly as it was before. The river still moves lazily through the grasses. The birds still sing their evening songs. And yet, nothing feels quite the same. You begin walking slowly home beneath the first appearing stars, carrying that tiny flame within your heart. And somewhere deep inside, you know that whenever awe opens you to beauty, joy, wonder, love, or connection, you'll find your way back to this fire once again.